In today's tutorial, we are going to paint a beautiful blue floral motif in watercolor. By working in one color, we'll free ourselves up to focus on layout and design and floral painting. So let's get started. Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Shayda Campbell, and on this channel I do art tutorials, so go ahead and subscribe. And remember, the art that I create in today's video is available for you to print and enjoy. You can find all the channel bonus content on my Patreon, and it's just $2 a month. Let's talk supplies. Today I'm using two paintbrushes. I have a number 6 round brush as well as a smaller detail brush. Those are sort of my go-tos for so much of what I do. I also have some paper towel for blotting, a yogurt lid to use as a palette, and 1 glass of clean water, and only one today because I'm only painting with one color for this floral motif. And I am using the Prussian blue. This is just a Winsor & Newton Cotman series watercolor, so we'll be using some tube watercolors for this one. Oh, be very careful when you're opening your tubes. If you get those crunchy bits from the lid all over, those can really muck up your paint, so watch out for those. And then I am using hot pressed paper today from Canson. I've been using hot pressed a lot more lately. It's much less textured, less toothy. It's also the fibers are closer together, which means it doesn't soak up as much water. And all of that information is on the front here when you're looking in the art store. This one is 100% cotton, which means it won't turn yellow over time. It's 140 pound and it's the hot pressed. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is grab a sketchbook, a scrap piece of paper, and I'm gonna map out my painting. So I wanna, plan out this painting before I start. And I'm just sort of drawing some circles here to represent where the flowers in this floral motif will go. So you can see I've got 3 large flowers and then 2 smaller ones, at least represented by the circles. And then I'm gonna kind of draw some leaves of different sizes. And I'm just sort of having fun sketching. Doing a plan for a painting I think is so important, at least for me. I'm not someone that can just hit the page with their paintbrush and have it turn out great. I need to do this preliminary work. So now you can see I'm going back in with the pen and I'm sort of deciding, okay, this flower is going to be a rose. I'm going to do sort of some open floppy flowers for 3 of them and then roses for 2 of them. I'll do some cascading flowers in the front, leaves of different shapes and sizes. And no, the painting won't be exactly like this, but this is going to be a good map for me especially as I start my painting. So we'll get that sketch out of the way, and then I am going to add some water to my paint. You always want to add lots of water. Got to get those crusty bits out of there. Maybe this weekend I'll get some Vaseline and clean all my paint lids. Wouldn't that be a fun afternoon? Maybe a Friday night. Anyways, I'm adding lots of water here and just mixing the paint up. And as you mix, just be sure to wash your brush out before you let that brush hit the page. So now I've got a very, very light watery blue, and I am just starting in the middle with that first large flower, and I'm going to do sort of this rather floppy flower that is made up of 5 petals. So you can see me just laying down the petals one by one. I like to keep a little negative space in there, almost like a highlight on the petal. It adds a nice detail to see a little bit of that paper through the beautiful blue paint. Okay, so finishing this flower up with the 5th petal, and I'm just sort of shaping the petals. I want them to be loose. I want them to just be a brush stroke, but I'm not very good at letting things just be. So I'm practicing that. And then of course I take that dark blue and I just let that seep out into the rest of the flower. That's a wet into wet technique, and it creates that beautiful dark blue stamen in the center. And then here I'm going to do my next flower, and this one is just going to be 4 petals. Same idea, leaving that negative space and just trying to keep it loose and not overwork the paints. And then I'll go back in and I'll add that darker blue in the center. And you can use your smaller brush for that as well. Either one will work, but you might be able to add a little more detail with the detail brush and do some sort of stippling effect to make that really beautiful stamen. Okay, and then I'm gonna sort of, with very, very light blue, map out where I want that rose to go, that larger, that third large flower. So just by using almost translucent paint, you can kind of say, okay, that's the size that I want this to be. So you're still planning, you're still mapping as you paint. And for this rose, I am doing these sort of semicircle brush strokes, these rounded brush strokes, leaving negative space, and I move around the paper as I need to. I know you can't see very well, but I'll move back in a second. But move the paper or move yourself so that it's easiest for you to paint. If you're having trouble doing those circular brush strokes because of the way you or the paper is positioned, you know, you want things to work to your advantage. And here I'm just sort of going around and around, adding a little more pigment, a little more color, while still leaving that negative space. And I'll come back to that. I'm gonna do another one here. So another little rose. I start with that stippling in the middle and then doing these circular brush strokes, going around and around, leaving a little bit of negative space. I'm sort of gonna weave this little rose into these other two flowers and just getting a little lighter towards the edges of this rose, and then adding a little darker color and letting it kind of seep out, and it looks really natural and loose and beautiful. And then once this other one has dried just slightly, I'll come back in and I'll add some more detail. And because it's still wet, the brush strokes are naturally not going to be too sharp. They'll seep out a bit, they'll be soft and lovely. And I am going to do the second small flower. If you remember in the plan, there was 3 larger flowers and 2 small ones. So I'm doing that other small one here and just employing that same technique where I put that beautiful dark blue in the center. And then let's take a look. We've got our map here and I have those 3 large flowers plus the 2 small ones. For this one, I have 3 large ones and then I ended up doing 3 small ones. Just the way the flowers were positioned, I felt it was balanced better with the extra one. But yeah, so far so good. Now it's time to do some leaves. And I actually thought it would be nice to mix a little bit of black into my Prussian blue so that I could get an even darker color for the leaves. And that was something I maybe should have mentioned earlier. I kept the paints for all the flowers quite light. I went from light to medium blue, and now for the leaves, I'll get quite a bit darker, and you could do that just by mixing the paint darker or by adding another color or a little bit of black. So that's what I've done here. I've got this beautiful rich color now, and in that way, I'll get some beautiful contrast within the piece with the lighter flowers and the darker leaves. And working in one color is just so great, as I said, for freeing you up really to think about design and layout, and you don't have to worry about color and mixing and all that stuff. So for these leaves, I'm just laying down the big sort of floppy shapes with my number 6 brush, and then I can come back in with the smaller brush and add some detail, maybe add a point to the leaves, maybe add a stem, and I'll also use the small brush, the detail brush, to add some beautiful tiny leaves. And I like to do this one where you just paint the stems and then you do these pairs of leaves going all the way down, and you can continue to do more and more stems going out and out, so that can really fill in a lot of space. And the next thing I'm going to do is create these little cascading flowers at the bottom of the floral motif. And I do these by painting little ovals or little heart shapes or V shapes. They're all about the same size, and you just do a whole bunch of them. Do as many as you need to fill in the area that you want to fill in. I always think of them as kind of like a school of fish. They're just sort of grouped together, but there's always some outliers, and you want to paint them quite quickly and freely. Don't overthink it, because the next thing that you're going to do is come in with a darker color. So get a dark blue on that detail brush and then start weaving them together with these little stems. And it looks really lovely if the dark blue seeps into those heart shapes or those ovals just a little bit. And you can see on some of them, I'm not going to get any wet into wet action, and that's fine too. I can always add a little dark blue, add a little shading, but when it does seep in and you get that wet into wet effect, it's quite beautiful. And I also would do this with multiple colors like purple flowers and green stems, and it gives a beautiful burst of green that looks like leaves encompassing the flower. So I'm almost done. I just need to add some more leaves here by the rose. It sort of looks naked. I'm working with light colors so that I can kind of map out and plan, do those leaves look okay? And actually I thought that second leaf, that top leaf, looked a little out of place. So what I did is I painted the first one and then I did a set of 3 and I thought that was a lot better. So by going in with the really light paint first, I'm able to say, ooh, actually that looks a little funny. And then I'm just going around and I'm adding more leaves, both big and small, and I'm just finishing off the piece really. Once you get those flowers done, it's all a lot of fun because all the leaves, they really just act as a border around your initial flowers, and you can do all different shapes and sizes and just really practice your brushwork. And I find it always quite meditative and enjoyable to paint leaves. Okay, and then at the very end, I take that detail brush and I'll just add some veining and some lines to some of these leaves. You don't have to do that. It gives a nice detail though that I really like. And that's the piece at the end. It's all done. It's loose, it's simple. It's a beautiful blue floral motif and it's great practice for your layout and design. Start with that initial sketch to map it out and then don't worry about color, just worry about painting those flowers, and I think you'll come up with a lovely piece and something that would really look beautiful on the wall. There's something very sophisticated about working in one color. Okay, thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you're enjoying these floral painting tutorials. There's going to be one every month from now on. So subscribe and stick around, and I will see you very soon with a new tutorial.